And what in your view happened? Do you think he backed off because of that?
No, I'm just saying. I just found it interesting that Biden's being Biden's being extremist, and it turns out you all are writing about it now. Kind of fascinating. That our significant climate investment will, quote, help turbocharge turbocharge the emerging global clean energy economy. I was reading their quote. Sorry.
Early next year, or what's your thinking?
My guess is, I hope Jill and I get a little time to actually sneak away for a week around between Christmas and Thanksgiving. And my guess is it'd be early next year we make that judgment. But it is my plan to do it now. I mean, but, you know.
We saw Governor Ron DeSantis with a resounding victory in Florida last night. Who do you think would be the tougher competitor, Ron DeSantis or former President Trump? And how is that factoring into your decision?
It'll be fun watching them take on each other.
You mentioned that Americans are frustrated, and in fact, 75% of voters say the country is heading into the wrong direction. Despite the results of last night, what in the next 2 years do you intend to do differently to change people's opinion of the direction of the country, particularly as you contemplate a run for president in 2024?
Nothing, because they're just finding out what we're doing. The more they know about what we're doing, the more support there is. And we have more money in the pot now, already out there, we voted for, than the entire money we spent on Amtrak to begin with.
The president said yesterday, I'm not going to change anything in a fundamental way. But the president's approval ratings are still low. An overwhelming majority of voters in exit polls said the country's headed in the wrong direction, especially on the economy. So how is the White House sort of squaring those two things?
Look, I know you're talking about the president's poll, but the thing about it is, when you look at these pieces of legislation, when you look at the work that we have done, when you look at the issues that the president has worked on, they're all popular. You think about inflation. Yes, the American people are feeling that every day, but the president has also worked on these issues, and those are the things he's not going to stop on. Those are the things he's not going to pull back on, trying to lower gas prices as another example of the things that he's done.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy said last night that it is clear we are going to take the House back. Do you think he's probably right about that?
Well, based on what we know as of today, we've lost very few seats for certain. We still have a possibility of keeping the House.
You said here the president's plans are going to lower costs, they're going to get inflation down, but the president's been giving us that message for more than a year, basically without much success. So is it time for a pivot?
So I disagree with that not having much success, because if you look at the president's policies as it relates to, for example, the gas prices, the president took bold actions, as you've heard us say. You know, he tapped into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which was a historic action. And because of that, and it has been proven by data, and that's because he took action. He took Inflation Reduction Act. Again, only Democrats, congressional Democrats voted for that. It's going to lower the cost of energy. We understand that Americans are feeling a little bit of a squeeze right now, and we get that. The president gets that.
The issue is inflation. The GRIO and KFF conducted a study of Black voters that said inflation was the #1 issue, and we saw it in this midterm election. What can you promise concretely in these next 2 years that will help turn the pocketbook for the better in the midst of staving off a recession?
We're now in a situation where we're providing, through the Small Business Administration, down payments for people buying homes, because most people accumulate wealth in the value of their home.
Mr. President, do you think Elon Musk is a threat to U.S. national security? And should the U.S., and with the tools you have, investigate his joint acquisition of Twitter with foreign governments, which include the Saudis?
Is worthy of being looked at. And I'm suggesting that it's worth being looked at.
The president yesterday said that it should be that the Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter should be looked into as
I will defer to the CFIUS process rather than comment on it further from this podium. Yeah.
You've said several times from this perch right here that the White House wants to remain independent from the Justice Department. I know Jake was asked earlier by Ouija about this comment with Elon Musk and having people, it's worthy of looking into Elon Musk's. What did he mean? What does that mean when the president says worthy of being looked into? It's raising some questions.
I'm just not going to go beyond that.
10, 12, 15, oops, stepping on it's black, anyway. And we did all these things without raising a single penny tax on anyone who made less than $400,000 a year. Not a single penny. Hey, man, don't jump. You look crazy enough to jump. Don't jump. Don't jump. No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't formed any new drilling.
At least 5 more years of offshore drilling.
No,
In the Atlantic or the Pacific, but in the Antarctic and off the Gulf of New Mexico, or off the Gulf of Mexico.
that was before I was president. We're trying to work on that, get that done. Thank you. But what I can't do is I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to get rid of inflation, but I do think we can. We've already brought down the price of gasoline about $1.20 a gallon across the board, and I think that the oil companies are really doing the nation a real disservice.
The entire genesis of that G7 conversation was tied to your predecessor, who is about to launch another campaign. So how do you reassure them, if that is the reason for their questioning, that the former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States?
Well, we just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
We don't often get a very lengthy Saturday statement from you clarifying the president's remarks from the day prior. Can you walk through what the genesis of that was and whether or not you guys thought that perhaps it would be politically problematic had those statements been allowed to stand?
So we just wanted to be, you're talking about so we just wanted to be very clear on that, which is why we put out a statement. It seemed like there was some confusion on that. And so, I want to say this. It was, some of you were there. It was loud and hard to hear, I think, or maybe not exactly what was being said, but I currently don't want to get into punditry from here and why we did it or do it did it on TV. But I spoke to this over the weekend. The president's words, we believe, were twisted, and we were very clear about that. And the reason why we put out that statement to you asked me about the genesis. We believe his words were twisted, and we just wanted to make sure there was some clarity.
I was in Massachusetts about a month ago, on the site of the largest old coal plant in America. Guess what? It costs them too much money. They can't count. No one's building new coal plants because they can't rely on it, even if they have all the coal guaranteed for the rest of the existence of the plant. So it's going to become a wind generation. And all they're doing is going to save them a hell of a lot of money, and using the same transmission line they transmitted the coal-fired electric on. We're going to be shutting these plants down all across America and having wind and solar.
To clarify something you mentioned here at the podium, you mentioned about the president's statement or what the president said on Saturday regarding coal. You mentioned a couple times or repeated a couple times today that those words were twisted. So who twisted them? Did Manchin twist them? Did someone else twist them?
It's how it was reported out was being twisted. So and I want to be really clear because this is important. If you read the full transcript, the president was very clear commenting on a fact of economics and technology, as it has been from its earliest days as an energy superpower. America is once again, in the midst of an energy transition, and the president is determined to make sure that this transition helps all Americans, and he's been very clear about that. And these weren't some novel comments as they were taken and twisted to be. The president has talked for years about this energy transition and the need to support coal communities through it. And so it was twisted by many others, and so we wanted to make sure that there was some clarity.
You said that the president is fighting for coal communities, but just to follow up, that doesn't mean that he's fighting to keep these coal mines open, does it?
Look, the president, I laid out very clearly about how the president sees his part in this and what he has done. He has through the work of working, I mentioned this, I just laid this out. While we're trying to help coal communities, while we're trying to do everything that we can to make sure that they have the funding that they need, Republicans, that very same policy, same monies that I just laid out, Inflation Reduction Act, which is where it's coming from, Republicans want to repeal that, taking away the efforts that we're trying to provide for coal communities.
So that sounds like you're helping them as the market through economic transition is moving away from coal. That doesn't sound like you're taking any deregulatory efforts or any steps to help the mines themselves stay open. Is that correct?
Look, I've been very clear. The president's been very clear on this. Don't have anything more to add. Again, we believe what he was trying to say was twisted, and we've laid that down very clearly. You heard from my statement. You heard from what I just said here today.
Twist those words. He said we're shutting those plants down.
Go ahead, Phil. Take action.
Republicans have made it clear that if they do take control of the House, that they want to launch a raft of investigations on day one into your handling of Afghanistan, the border. They want to look into some of your cabinet officials. They want to investigate you. They may even want to investigate your son. What's your message to Republicans who are considering investigating your family, and particularly your son Hunter's business dealings?
Lots of luck in your senior year, as my coach used to say. Look, I think the American public want us to move on and get things done for them. And, I heard that it was reported, whether it's accurate or not, I'm not sure, but it was reported many times that Republicans were saying, and the former president said, how many times are you going to impeach Biden? Impeachment proceeding against Biden. I mean, I think the American people will look at all of that for what it is. It's just almost comedy. I mean, it's